Okay. Now you can go.
Howdy, y'all. Podness.
Partners.
Oh, today we're going to talk about best Westerns. Now you...
Not the hotel.
You're a Holiday Inn guy, aren't you?
Yeah. Jameson in quality, and I'm a big fan of those. Not the best Western.
Oh, comedy gold.
Bullshit.
Come for the insightful film analysis, stay for the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At what point in all of this did we play our opening music?
Oh, I've been putting sound effects in all the time I draw a gun. Yeah, I'm going to really hate myself later with all that I just did.
Well, I'm your Huckleberry. If you're new to our corral here, I'm Dr. Paul.
I'm Cowboy Diet Paul.
So long, gay boys.
Yes, and right here on the Rotten Potatoes Ranch.
Yeah. And Saloon.
Yes, we drop a new episode. When I say we, it's really him and the rat in his pocket. We drop a new episode every single Thursday. Have never missed a beat in almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. And even though it is about to kill one of us, not me.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
And then we do special things. We had, things to watch, movies that are coming at you every single, that's, he's brainchild. And we talk about movies.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't guessed yet, Father, Son, Spawn of My Loins. And we talk about movies, good movies, bad movies, sci-fi, comic book, real movies, films, foreign films. And then other things, we talk about comic books, models, pop culture, the world, and our place in the world, talk about God. And so this episode, spoiler alert.
We're going to dip into the top 7 best Westerns of all gosh dang time.
Yeah.
Ding.
Now, who can argue with that? Reverend! Not only was it authentic frontier gibberish.
Pardon me while I whip something out. Get me a chaw. So, hard episode to prep for. I got to take this off because I start sweating.
That's what she said.
Yeah. Would you like to wear it for this episode?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay.
You're never supposed to let someone else wear your cowboy hat, and you're not supposed to lay it on a bed.
You need to stop listening to those yahoos in the bunkhouse. There ain't no such thing as luck. But I sure believe in stupid, because you prove it every fucking day.
Well, you want to take your spurs off?
I would if I had them on.
Was this hard?
It was. There's a lot of good Western movies. Normally, when you find like top 100 lists, there's not genuine like 9 out of 10s in the 100 slot. So I went and was looking at Rotten Tomatoes top 100 after I did my list. I was like, man, there are just so many good Westerns, but not a lot of good newer Westerns. It seems as though this was a bigger genre in the 60s, 50s, 70s started to kind of decline.
Yeah.
And then there was a little bit of a renaissance, I think there in like the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, it seems to be just cherry picked now.
Yeah. I swear, it might have been a horror list that we did over a year ago that I found a website that did a statistical analysis of box office films that based upon genre. Mm-hmm. And it's mapped out so you can sort of see like at which decade or year had what was the composition in terms of drama, horror, war movies, that kind of stuff. Because clearly Westerns is one of the most prolific genres, and especially during the like you said, the 50s and early 60s. Early 60s, it started to wane a little bit, and which I think, and when I get to some of my films, I think there's a reason for that. And then the Renaissance that came back. So yeah, and I just always assumed that Western would be like the top genre of all time, but it's really drama is more of more films that are, and then we have now it's just everything is all comic book and sci-fi and special effects, so
fantasy in some way or another. Why do you think it was such something that people like identified with in the 50s and 60s?
I think we had primarily an agrarian culture and a farm community, and so you had the big wide open spaces, and you didn't have a lot of more of the urban stuff. And so when films start to become popular, in the 30s and 40s, statistics show that people were going to the movie theater like 5 times a week because we didn't have television and all those kind of things. And so it was a familiar kind of, and it's also, you didn't need a whole lot to be able to do it. Nor
was it expensive.
Yep. Turn your camera on. And it also, you think about like, what is a Western? And you think about like, there are certain, it's typically in a Western, do you have to have a gunfight? Do you have to have, the good guy and the bad guy, the strong, silent hero that's part of that, the wide open vistas and kind of stuff. And then you have the throwaways. There were so many B film Westerns. And B films, if you don't know, used to be that there'd be more than one film. You'd have the A picture that people would go see. And then they would have, and oftentimes those were quicker. They might even be just a 60 to an 80-minute film called the B film. So you get to see 2. And so Westerns were prolific during that. And early television, if you look at that as well.
A lot of Westerns.
A lot, Wagon Train, etc.
I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're asking me like I was alive in the 50s.
You were for a couple of years.
A couple. So, you have been doing this thing lately where you think and you list how many of films that you already have a list of what you think my films are going to be?
Sure do.
And there's this. This is the 7th. This episode is if you're new to us, and I don't know what his 7's going to be, and he doesn't know mine, and we sort of count backwards till we get to our number 1. Which, by the way, are these the 7 greatest Westerns ever made, as far as you're concerned, or your 7 favorites? Or
I think this could be the most contentious topic thus far, because I think what you constitute makes a good Western versus what I constitute makes a good Western could be vastly different things. Because you say, like, does a Western mean, cowboys and Indians in saloons, or is it a sort of like identity and a tone to a film? Like, what is the difference? So there's a lot to choose from.
Based on what you've just said, I already know your number 1 film is going to be Fight Club, and you're going to try to figure out how that's a Western.
No.
Oh, we wished he would have thought, doggone it, I should have done that.
Damn it.
For me, these aren't what I think, when you look at what the critics will say are historically the greatest Westerns of all time, I agree with that. But for me, what are the ones that are most watchable and rewatchable kind of
I
thing
would,
that
I would
watch
say
over
that,
and over again?
Yeah. Because a lot of these movies I do find myself rewatching, because there was a pull to me to want to put some older films. Like, I really like A Fistful of Dollars and A Few Dollars More, but they're not as rewatchable to me as some of the other movies out there.
Yeah. So okay. Well, I was trying to think which ones you would list, and I think I kind of know a couple of them. I even hinted earlier, but why don't you kick us off with your number 7?
My number 7?
Yep.
Oh, where's it at? Okay, it's at the bottom. All right. Let's start it off with an old classic. True Grit.
Which one?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's the 2010 one. From directors Joel and Ethan Coen. 95 and 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is I like this because it's different. It seems to be a more female-led film with the young girl. And she's a very strong character. I just think it's a little different. It's basically Western through the eyes of this little girl. And I think she's a brilliant job, but then you have these other 3 great actors that sort of lie around her. You have, Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, and then Josh Brolin. And just a big fan of the movie. Josh Brolin as, or not Josh Brolin, but Jeff Bridges as Rooster Cogburn. It's so good. The scene in the beginning when he's basically he's on the stand under fire from, I guess, the prosecutor, and he's having to basically retrace his steps. It's just beautiful.
I'm going to tell you right now. It's better than the John Wayne version.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
It is not. That is, I mean, I love John Wayne, and can you have a list of the top westerns that doesn't have, at least
Right.
one John Wayne
Right.
in it, or, and clearly that is not on my list of it's not on my list of top John Wayne films at all.
Mhm.
I didn't pretend, and there was a follow up to that called Rooster Cogburn
Yeah.
that he did that I thought was even less impressionable.
Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you. The young lady that was the star of this,
Mhm.
I think she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. She and of course, the lead was just amazing. Great. I totally agree.
Mhm.
Not on my list.
Because there's so many of them.
Do you have? We get to our rotten or our honorable mentions at the end then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have honorable mentions.
All right, I'm going to start off my number 7 with something you probably have never heard of before. Bad Day at Black Rock.
I've heard of it.
Yep, I think I might have mentioned it on one of my episodes. 1955. It's a John Sturges film. Now, John Sturges made 15 other westerns, like pivotal. He was kind of like even more so, I would say, than somebody like a John Ford. And
Really? Wow.
it is a very surprising film. It's got Spencer Tracy in it, Lee Marvin, Robert Ryan, Dean Jagger. Spencer Tracy comes into town on a train.
I remember this movie now.
Yeah.
I remember this movie now.
And he's like, it's the town and the creaky doors and stuff. And he's disabled. His one arm, it was from a war injury. He can't use it. And he is there trying to investigate a murder. And this whole town is like, but kicks some serious butt for this, it's kind of an action film in one sense, but just very, very surprising. The cinematography is sort of, as of a lot of Westerns, if you think about it, I don't know very many genres that it's more important the vistas, the scope that you have in there, and it really is kind of the isolation. So you see, Sergio Leone used to do that, where he would do wide shots, and so you sort of see, and then he would do these extreme close-ups.
And now that's a branding of our westerns itself.
Yeah. So, but I just think it is, and for you youngins out there, it's a good one, and huge payoff at the end. With
Is this one that takes place in like the 50s, or does it take place in like the Wild West? I can't remember.
That's the thing, and I originally thought about it. I thought, no, that's not a Western, but the way we do this, I just sit down and just off the top of my head.
No, and I'm not saying it's not a Western. I'm asking because I can't remember.
But then when I saw it, after I came up with my list, and I saw, yes, it's on everybody. So it is. I believe the time period. He was investigating. It was from the war, so it was probably in the 50s.
Because that's what I thought. I couldn't remember if it was Wild West or not. I can only picture some of the fights.
Obviously there are vehicles in it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's true.
So
fair enough. I remember it. Yeah. And then I remember you downloading the trailers and stuff.
Yeah. You still have them?
Of course.
You can just go and pull the.
Absolutely. But it would probably take me longer to find them than to download them. But that's a surprise. So okay, fair enough.
That wasn't on your list?
No, it wasn't on my list. No, I wouldn't have. Yeah, it was too ambiguous. Number 6. Now this one kept sliding down my list. This one I put this one on my initial list, and then as I kept trying to whittle it down to 7, it kept going from. I think at one point it was number 2, and it went in at number 6. And that's The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I've put this movie on a list before. Starring Mr. Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck. And it's a little bit lower on the Rotten Tomatoes scores, 77%, 75% than I expected to see. But this takes the wide vistas shots and all those Sergio Leone markers in the visual characteristics of a film and turns them up to 10, but then slows the movie down times 10. It's a different type of Westerns. It doesn't feel so frantic, yet there's some very intense scenes and shootouts in it. And then it's about Jesse James. You can't have a list about Westerns and not talk about one of the greatest outlaws in the history Outlaws, and that's Jesse James. And Brad Pitt as Jesse James is about, the best depiction I can think of. And then Casey Affleck, I think, just does a masterful job locking down some sort of broken character that's just well done. There's a lot of really good supporting actors in it as well. I think Sam Rockwell's in it. But very, very worthwhile in seeing, especially if you're a fan of Westerns, because you may have not seen it.
Oh, I've seen it, and I knew it was going to be on your list. And I remember that when I saw it, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the first time that I saw Casey Affleck sort of flexing his own and stepping out from the shadow of his brother.
He does flex his acting skills in that movie.
Yeah. So I agree with this. Not on my list, but I had a feeling it would be on your list. But
yeah, I actually saw it when it came out on DVD, and I didn't care for it. So this was something I saw 10 years later, and I was like, man, why didn't I like this movie before? Not sure.
Well, I have a film that would make a nice double feature with that. Okay, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
My thoughts exactly.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Never saw it?
Never heard of it. I mean, I'm sure my eyes have scrolled through a list with it on there, but it means nothing to me. There's so many Westerns with ambiguous titles. What's the title again? I already forgot.
Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. Which you just said. How are you going to make one of the best Westerns of all time if you don't talk about,
Jesse James.
Yeah, and Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid, yeah. I would say put him right there too, yeah.
Well, let me just say the most important name in this is Sam Peckinpah.
Sam Peckinpah, of course.
Yeah.
I know the name.
Who is, first of all, it is, Peckinpah directs it, and Peckinpah had the reputation, it came out in 1973, but had the reputation and was really kind of got a lot of flack for it about how gory his movies were and realistic.
Spaghetti Westerns, baby.
Well, it used to be growing up in the 50s, you were shooting bullets all the time and people go, kind of stuff. He was the first time where you would actually see the entry, the entry point and blowing up kind of stuff. And, there's a scene in the beginning where they're shooting, chickens, and they're just shooting the heads clear off of chickens right on screen kind of stuff.
Different day.
Yeah, it is. It's got, Chris Christopherson and James Coburn, and it's essentially
what's the year? This
1973.
Okay.
And it is this that Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid were compadres. They were friends and ran together. And then Pat Garrett becomes sheriff and is sort of charged with arresting his friend. And it does everything that Westerns do. It's got the vistas that's part of it. It's also probably most famous because the soundtrack is Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan actually plays. He's actually a character in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
He acts.
I'm sure he didn't have to get costume. He just showed up on set. Like a little less Robin Hood today, Bob.
He eats a can of peaches, which is just, it's kind of fascinating. The high point in my mind, and it is probably, and maybe we should do an episode sometime of the best 7 scenes in movies. And this is one of the 7 best scenes. Slim Pickens, who is a Western, as soon as you saw him.
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah. He was in Blazing Saddles kind of thing. He is in this. And it's hard for me to even, because I'm going to start crying.
It's that good, y'all.
It is, he is shot.
3 tears.
And he's sort of not part of this. I mean, he was, aligned with them and kind of but gets shot and goes out and sits under a tree and watches the sunset, and he's bleeding out, and his wife, who is a Native American, comes, and the song played over top of it is Knock, Knock, Knock on Heaven Door, it is absolutely just a brilliant scene. The music, the visuals, everything.
Is that at the end of the movie?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not at all.
I'm only asking so I can find it.
Okay. and Sam Peckinpah, I'm telling you, he's amazing.
No, this one sounds good. I would definitely watch this one.
And
Chris
James
Christopherson,
Coburn.
Craig.
Yeah, James Coburn, which was, in like Flint, Our Man Flint kind of stuff, Magnificent Seven kind of stuff. Really, really good. And it's kind of a tragic film. I mean, it's a hard watch sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan.
Chris Christopherson is, Billy the Kid.
You got to be bad if you Billy the Kid.
Oh, I'm telling you. You watch this movie and you know why we still talk about Billy the Kid and still make movies about him now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could get behind that. I'm going to have to watch that one.
You won't watch that.
I will.
No,
that sounds good. No, I'm serious. That
okay.
Sounds good. And the good jump, a good segue to my number 5. Let's just go right on to another Sam Peckinpah movie, and that's going to be The Wild Bunch, which might be one of my favorite older Western films. And I kind of hope one day that maybe Quentin Tarantino does another version of it, because I think it could be real good. He just died a little inside. Tarantino would never do a remake of it.
I can taste the vomit in the back of my throat.
Oh, get out of here. It'd be so good. It would just be bloodier and gorier and over the top. But it's the spaghettiest of Westerns, in my opinion. And I think I watched this movie. I was halfway through it and looking for reasons to turn it off, but couldn't turn it off because it just kept amping up. And it's got a pretty visceral ending to it. And I think a lot of times the cowboy sort of walks off in the sunset. And a lot of the times Peckinpah didn't want to do that. He did something that was more realistic with the endings. So I think it makes it stand out a little bit amongst those films, in my opinion.
And you said that it's older. Like, what is an old film to you?
An older film to me, it's
anything that came out before you were born
is considered older, in my opinion. I wouldn't say the 70s is probably a good line. 1970 and before I would consider older.
So Back to the Future is an older film?
No.
Why? Came out before you were born.
Yeah, but it's close enough.
Okay. Well, good choice.
You trying to call me old?
No.
Backhanded.
I'm just looking at your logic. So
yeah, that's a good one.
No, I thought you were. I'm trying to think. I never thought that would be on your list, kind of deal. So, all right.
Kind of reminds me of what is it? Oh, it's a war movie with soldiers in World War II, and they come out of prison to go fight. What's
yeah. The Jim Brown in it.
Yes, it reminds me of that.
Kelly's Heroes.
Yeah,
was that it?
No, that's not it. But we're talking
in the same thing. Yeah,
same. They remind me of the same thing. It's just sort of like guys going to their death for a cause that's really not their own.
Yeah.
And there's something honorable about that. I don't know.
It's so interesting that you would say that, because that segues into my number 5.
We didn't plan this.
Magnificent Seven, which is exactly what you just said. A group of guys fighting a battle that's not their own. You're talking about 1960, John Sturges. This is the second film on my list, but I never thought for a second that, I love the film, and I thought, wait a minute, that's directed by John Sturges as well, and had 15 Westerns that he did, so 2 of them are right there. You got Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen. It was his breakout role in films. Charles Bronson, Eli Wallach, Robert Vaughn. It's essentially a remake of The Seven Samurai. And it's where they are paid to come and sort of fight off these desperados, these banditos. And it really is magnificent. It's what's wonderful about the score, I believe, was nominated for an Oscar. And the song that they play, that's sort of the Magnificent Seven theme, is just it's world. You play that, and people won't know the film, but they'll know the music. They'll know the music. And it's really interesting. I am a big fan of watching the special features on DVDs and stuff. And I've watched a lot and studied a lot about Steve McQueen. And he had this thing as he's acting. It's like how he would draw the attention on himself. So
yes, I've seen some of that too.
He'd be in a scene where he's not saying anything at all, but he's just sort of like doing with his hat here. In fact, he's in the wagon with Yul Brynner in Magnificent Seven, kind of stuff, and messing with his. And Yul Brynner,
you're not supposed to do that as an actor.
Yul Brynner is livid because you can't take your eyes off Steve McQueen.
I've heard the same story that actors used to get frustrated with him, especially early in his career, because he was doing anything to stand out, including stepping on other people's lines. Because as a background extra, you're not supposed to take your eyes and direct them to the background. So that's totally against acting rules. I can bet an older guy like Yul Brynner would be so ticked off by that. But then at the end of the movie, it's the same guy that would look at the screen and be like, okay, I get it.
Yep. Yeah. It's a great film.
I'm a big fan.
Don't like the remake.
I saw the remake, and there's scenes in it that are kind of touch the same spirit, but in no way does it compare. And yeah, it's not on my list, but I wanted to put it on my list so bad. I really did. It's in my honorable mentions.
It's if you would have put it on your list, then that would have squeezed Fight Club out.
Yeah, no room for Fight Club in the end. All right, number 4. Django Unchained. Let's get Quentin Tarantino and his homies involved.
Daily Double, my number 4 as well.
Nuh-uh.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Not only is it the same one, it's the same number. Now that I don't know that that's ever happened. Maybe not. I don't know. It's a great movie.
Yes, it is.
It's the return. It's literally Sam Peckinpah times 10. Everything about it over the top. Jamie Foxx is amazing.
Samuel L. Jackson, Snowball.
Listen to him talk about the conversations with Quentin Tarantino for that film and like talking him into it, because he shows up thinking he's reading for Jamie Foxx's character. And he's like, no, and gets him to read. He's like, you want me to be this guy? He's like, be the most hated black actor of all time if I play this role. And yet he did it, and he's amazing.
He is. He really does steal the show. And he's strong. He's not a subservient character at all.
No,
and really is pretty much, he's kind of the head of the house, not figuratively, but literally. I mean,
Like,
DiCaprio is
looks
actively,
up to him and almost sees him as not a father figure, but a parental figure in some ways, which is an interesting relationship to see on screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, there's just so many great stories where he cuts his hand while he's banging on the table and like just keeps going with the scene. It's such a good movie.
It makes perfect sense to me, too, that it's a Quentin Tarantino film from the standpoint of Quentin Tarantino was, in my opinion, sort of his shtick is he takes a genre and then he sort of it brings it up to date. And he's done that in so many. That's why I keep waiting for him to do a true horror film or a true sci-fi film. I know there was talk that he was going to do Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah.
But here it is. He does a Western, and he's done more than one Western. Hateful Eight as well.
I would say his genre has a very Western feel to it.
Yeah.
But I'd agree.
Well, he loved foreign film. He and Sergio Leone and all of that, The Man with No Name, all of those films with Clint Eastwood. So
what's funny is he breathes life into them, but by using old tropes.
Yeah.
Which is strange.
Well, Django Unchained is actually
it's a remake.
Yes, and there's a whole series of Django films.
Yeah, it's a light remake. They take like the idea of a cowboy going after his love, and that's really the only connection.
Right?
To the film.
Yeah, because the original Django is Italian, dubbed in English. So.
Yeah. It's not. They're not really connected.
I've gone back and watched at least one of those and thinking, okay, what was it that enamored Tarantino with that so much that he decided to it
might honestly just be like the blackest sounding name that he could find in old Westerns.
Yeah.
Because it's got sort of that crossover, like you could, and because that's what he was trying to do with a lot of the musical themes and stuff. So I don't know, maybe that said something.
Christopher Waltz, that was his
breakout role.
Yep. In the U.S. It's just, I love it. Number four. That
so
means
it's right
it's
back
time
to
for
me.
me to
I
back
gotta
up
keep
to
talking.
you. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. All right. There's no Westerns list that is not complete without this film upon it.
Yeah,
and that is Dances with Wolves.
Here it comes.
Dances with Wolves, 1990. Kevin Costner's magnum opus. I enjoy watching that film quite relatively often. It's on my Prime, so I can access it quite quickly. I like it. I enjoy Native American films that are a little bit less Hollywood in their portrayal of the Native Americans. And now that I say that with the caveat that almost all portrayals of Native Americans in films are incredibly racist and, not correct, but I like the attempt at it to be a little bit different.
Like Ed Ames playing an Indian in a John Wayne film, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. But it's Kevin Costner at his best, and there's the vistas, it's the sweeping portrayal, it's the romance of 1990s Western films, and I'm hoping that it's on your list because I'm gonna be upset if it's not. I'm not gonna be upset if it's not.
It is a wonderful film, and everything you said is true. Stands with Fist. I mean,
I love the names.
Yeah, it really is, and it was deservedly so. The Oscar that when sometimes films that win Best Picture, you look back 20 years from now and saying, "Huh?" But clearly, it is, and it was an example of sort of another permutation of westerns, and it's not surprising to me then that he would come back, and obviously he's doing Yellowstone, which is not a Western, but it is certainly has elements of a Western.
I would probably consider it a Western.
And then his new actual Western,
Horizon.
Horizon, that I've seen part 1.
I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. So yeah, it's on my honorable mention, and it really came down to which, in terms of watching it over and over and over again, and I have, but maybe I watched it too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just, I don't know, there's just something rewatchable about it. I don't know what the reason is, because it's not like it does anything, I think, particularly different in like visual aspects, but it has all the good stuff. I don't know. I think it's just interesting.
It was wonderful casting, great story. It takes its time to tell its story, and it really is the bringing together of the Native American culture and the Occidental culture together.
It seemed thorough too, because there's a scene at the beginning where he gets his orders to go out west, and the guy that's giving him orders is absolutely insane. But they don't really ever explain any of that. It's just another little realistic slice of something happening in that world that he used, and I don't know. I enjoyed it highly.
I would think I have, and I just thought of this, but there's something in my sort of psyche that said this would make a nice double feature with, and I can't even remember the name of it, but it's the one with Tom Cruise and the Asian culture and
Last Samurai.
Yes,
that's a good one.
Both of those, same kind of thing, East and West, kind of stuff. The scope of it, sort of learning a new culture,
very, very similar. Yeah. The only difference being that he sort of injected himself there on his own, and Tom Cruise gets captured. That's really the only difference.
Yeah.
But I like both those movies.
Yeah. Is that on your best Western?
No. Darn it.
Well, my number 3, talk about you can't have a list of top Westerns without it, is 1992's Unforgiven. And it is, you can't really have a...
I got one!
That's the first one?
Yeah.
You can't have, you have to have at least one, like I say, John Wayne film, or one Clint Eastwood film, because so much of Clint Eastwood's, I mean, he started... actually, his first film was Creature of the Black Lagoon, I believe, one of those early, just a walk-on kind of.
Yeah, somewhere in the background.
And I might be wrong on that, but it was a very, very early black and white horror film, sci-fi film. But then he did Rawhide, and he played a character on that, so he got his birth in Westerns, as did Steve McQueen, did that as well. The thing about Unforgiven was nominated and won Best Picture of the Year. You got Morgan Freeman, you got Gene Hackman, Richard Harris in this. It kind of is a deconstruction of Westerns. It takes the tropes of Westerns. And, the whole thing is death is easy in Western. And how many movies you've seen where you're just lined up with guns and you're shooting, and how many people are dying. And he really does sort of put a value of human life in that. And you do sort of, and gun violence. And it's a powerful, powerful film all the way around. The soundtrack, this is the first film that he did that I realized he's a musician, and he actually writes
No.
music for a lot of his films. Mhm.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Dropping some knowledge, but no, that was my number 3. And did you have it on the list?
I did.
Did you have it in a number order?
No, I don't have. It's in no particular order. That's too tough. It's too tough. It's too difficult.
Okay.
But I have it on there.
Okay.
It's a good one. It's a very different Clint Eastwood movie from the earlier films that he did.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see why you put that one on there, but it's not on my list.
Really?
No.
Oh man.
All right, my number 2 is the second best.
Fight Club.
No, the second best Western all time, and the second appearance for Joel and Ethan Coen, and that's No Country for Old Men from 2007. What? Say something. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Say it or he gets it. That it's the return of the Western. The Coen brothers do it so well. Is that slow down Western pace. But Javier Bardem might be the scariest villain in the history. And I watched a video on how he's psychiatrist said that he's the perfect portrayal of a psychopath in films. And he's so damn scary. But Brolin is such the perfect cowboy because he has nothing to lose. And he's this I think he got paid $8,000 to play the role for that film, if you can believe that, which is crazy. There was a time when Josh Brolin was like not really a big working actor in Hollywood outside of his role in Goonies and as a detective in Mimic. But this,
every Western film has to have at least one scene where you kill somebody with an air gun.
Yes, and this one has multiple.
I know there are people who consider it a Western.
It's a Western. I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it. He's just mad because he didn't think of it first.
Oh no, I thought of it.
Oh no, I thought of it.
Western.
Not a Western. Dick.
Orphan.
Yeah.
Adopted. Okay. All right. Boy, we're getting into the meat now.
But if I'll say this, if you're not a big Western fan, try No Country for Old Men and see how it suits you. And then if you enjoy it, move on to the other stuff.
Ask me how many times I saw that movie.
No.
Okay. Number 2. Rio Bravo.
I got another one.
Do you really?
Yeah, I got
1959. Howard Hawks. Okay, Hawks. Which, you got to have at least one film with John Wayne, and this is it.
Mm-hmm.
This is my only John Wayne film that's on the list, which is kind of surprising to me because you have things like The Searchers, you have The Cowboy, The Shootist,
Stagecoach.
yes, all of those, and they're all great films. But I love this. This is sort of John Wayne, sort of with his bullets loosened a little bit, and then it's got Dean Martin and Ricky Nelson of all the
What's
people.
the old guy that's in it too?
Walter Brennan.
Yeah,
without
like him in
teeth
it.
during the whole thing. Yeah, well, I tell you,
He's hysterical in that
don't
movie.
be surprised if I don't shoot you as you walk in the door.
Yeah, he steals the show for me in a lot of the scenes. He's in.
He does. And see, Ricky Nelson, you think about the time period, it was like, what, 1955?
59, I think.
That I said. Yes, 59. Ricky Nelson started out as a child on the Ozzie and Harriet show, and then sort of became a musician and a heartthrob, released lots of albums, became a rock / country singer. But in 59, this was the sort of the peak of his career, and he doesn't do bad. Sometimes you throw some people in there to try to get kids' butts in the seats, but he does really well. And Dean Martin, I mean, it's in all of the films that he did, it's the one where he really does act. It's just,
I'll agree with that. Yeah, he's not just, hey, here's Dean Martin. Here's Dean Martin, the actor Dean Martin.
This is a one that I watched with my grandmother in the Southern Theater of all places. And it's just a sweet, sweet movie.
So you were pretty young when you saw this in the theater then, like a little kid.
Yeah, probably
59.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch it. You know,
Oh, okay.
it was in the Southern Theater, which was not a first run place.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I didn't. I'd be 3 years old.
I was going to say, you remember?
Yeah. Shoot him. No, it would have been like when 8 or 9 when I saw it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't teach the kids violence that young.
Yeah. No, but that's mine. I could easily put it number 1, but there is only one number 1.
I think I know what your number one's going to be.
I think I know what your number 1's
I
going to be.
think you do know what my number one's going to be. I think it was easy if you know me, and that's going to be, if you're finished with it.
Oh, I'm done.
My number one, severely underscored by the critics, and that's going to be Tombstone from 1993. Only 74% critics, 93 audience, but it was out before Rotten Tomatoes was a thing, so you take that with a grain of salt and a shot of penicillin. George P. Cosmatos and Kevin Jarre, I've never seen anything else they've done. I'm not sure why. It's amazing. It's the best Western. The best.
It's
Kurt
the
Russell.
Holiday Inn.
It is the Holiday Inn of Westerns. Kurt Russell, Val, Show Me the Money Kilmer. If for nothing else, you could watch this movie for Val Kilmer and be supremely just enthusiastic. But then you had, oh my goodness, Bill Paxton. I just shut my book and I don't even have my thing out. Sam Elliott. Powers Booth is in this thing. It's chock full of some of the best actors. And then you have the iconic story of Tombstone.
It Billy Bob Thornton?
Yes, Billy Bob Thornton
Yeah.
is in it.
Unrecognizable.
Skin that smoke wagon. That's one of my favorite scenes. Oh, Johnny, I forgot you were there. You may go now. It's so, I could quote the whole movie. I'm telling you, I watch this movie all the damn time. At least 3 to 4 times a year I watch this movie. All the time.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you said.
So it's your number one. Daily Double.
It's not on my list. I love Kurt Russell. You know Kurt. Okay, you and Goldie.
He's the perfect cowboy in this.
Thanks for the Christmas card. I would have liked to see him wear a patch. I'd like to see
he could pull it off.
Snake Plissken goes
Snake
to
Plissken,
Tombstone.
yeah.
No, you're right. The casting is wonderful. The script is just amazing. And you're right. It's probably Val Kilmer's best film of all time. I mean,
Michael Bain.
Yeah, it's just really, really good. There just wasn't room on it on my list.
I could understand that
Yeah.
because there's so many. Because we're talking about Rio Bravo. It's not on my list. It's an honorable mention. But the more we talked about it, I wanted to put it on my list now.
Yeah.
So I get it. There's just too many.
Yeah.
I have no clue what your number one is, though. I have maybe a small percentage of an idea.
We'll take a guess.
But I'm not going to embarrass myself.
Again. The Wild Bunch, 1969.
Damn it.
What? It is kind of a daily double. I always think, you got, again, it's Sam Peckinpah. 2 of his films. I'm really kind of surprised. 2 of his films on my list. And everything that you said, I mean, you didn't single out the cast. You got Ernest Borgnine, which is unusual to see him because most people that went to the theater then would think of him as from McHale's Navy, where he was a comic kind of.
And he's a little bit older.
Right. He started as a dramatic actor in a film. I think he was nominated for Best Actor for Marty. And then, of course, everybody, though, he was just in McHale and just a jolly guy. Here, he's kind of he's a badass. And then you have William Holden. You have Robert Ryan, Edmund O'Brien. It is the thing, and you should get the Sam Peckinpah box set, and you should watch the special features because it puts his life in perspective. He was a strange bird. And what he did with, and if you think about this film, it is the bridge between the old world and the new world, the changing of the centuries. Because you have this,
Yes.
they're talking about, the things called these aeroplanes they're going to have and these cars and stuff.
Yes.
And it's sort of how people were being squeezed out. And
The Wild West was
it
almost over.
Yes. And it really is kind of just an amazing. He's lived a tortured life, and this particular film is the greatest Western because it is about Westerns in the sense that I know there are people that would talk about Blazing Saddles. I see Blazing Saddles as one of the greatest comedies, if not the greatest comedy of all time. But it's a comedy about Western as opposed to being a Western comedy.
Mm-hmm.
This particular is the best Western, but it's about Western. It really sort of tells you why the West was important and why the story of the West and what that meant for our country. It's just a brilliant movie.
Well, it was about the end of the West during an era that was sort of the ending of the Western era. So it was sort of this weird similarity between the two, which I think just made it more powerful. And then you have all these actors. Ernest Borgnine he acted for many years later and even into the 2000s, but that's sort of where his celebrity status starts to decline in some of those other actors as well. So it's just this weird film. That's why I saw it in the first place.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. I knew that Tombstone would probably be your number one.
Because I'm a huckleberry.
Well, we hope y'all come back now.
Come back now, you'll hear.
You hear?
Yeah. I wanted to shout out quickly.
Honorable mentions.
Well, not just honorable mentions. I do have some of those, so I'll do those too. Obviously, Magnificent Seven, The Searchers, Hell or High Water, Rio Bravo, 3:10 to Yuma, Horizon. What about you?
Other than the things that you said, I mean, I did, just so you know that I actually had written the words Dances with Wolves and Blazing Saddles. Shane was on there.
Shane was one of the ones I put on your list.
I saw that when I was a kid, Southern Theater. It just wasn't room for it.
As soon as I heard Westerns and saw it, I heard you say, Shane, and put it on the damn list.
It would have been, and it was on my list as number 7 when I first started, but I thought, no, Bad Day at Black Rock was just, it's too competitive. Shane is a good film for the 9-year-old me to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But the adult, I would go for Black Rock. HUD, which was the first film that I ever saw in the Southern Theater. You got Paul Newman, you got Melvin Douglas, Patricia Neal. She won the Best Supporting Actor for that. I had Silverado on there.
Mm-hmm.
Quick and the Dead.
Okay,
that was on yours.
Yeah.
And I had Last Train to Yuma.
Okay.
Not the reboot.
The first one.
Yeah. No, not the first one. I like the remake.
You like the remake?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
The remake was the one that was on mine.
Russell Crowe.
The other movies that I had on your potential list that you didn't pick were Shane, Sabata, The Searchers, and then Once Upon a Time in the West. How close were those other three? Just curious.
Once Upon a Time in the West was not on my list at all.
Okay.
Now, and I've watched it and I like it, but it's not as rewatchable of that.
Mm-hmm.
Searchers, that almost made...
It almost made mine too.
Yeah, and it's just the cinematography alone for The Searchers.
It's one of the few movies I remember watching in film school that I actually liked afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the comedy Westerns are supremely underrated. You obviously have Blazing Saddles. I want to shout out this one. Little Big Man. You got to go watch that.
Dustin Hoffman.
If you're not seeing that, Back to the Future Part 3, City Slickers, Shanghai Noon, Three Amigos, A Million Ways to Die in the West. So there's all sorts of very undervalued Western films to watch with your eyeballs.
Tip of my hat to you there, little doggy.
Ding.
Get along, little doggy. Well, we hope you had a good time here, and we're interested, as always, in your ideas. You like us, you subscribe to us, and we'll be here sitting around the campfire and seeing you at the movies.
Kill